Hello, everyone. A very logical day to all of you. And let's see what we have here today. In the first editorial of the Indian Express, June 27, here we have Obama quote unquote. So, the reading part, lectures on democracy, more often than not, invite questions about the gratuitousness and locus standi of the lecturer. During Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Washington, when former US President Barack Obama made alarmed and alarmist remarks in an interview to CNN about India's treatment of its Muslim minority, he made alarmist remarks in an interview, right? Now, his timing and tone sounded off key. That means it was not called for it or did not suit the timing, and the tone did not suit the setting. So these are times when the American project of exporting democracy around the world seems increasingly shown up by its presumption and also by the fact that American democracy is beset by its own anxieties. Right? So it wants to export democracy around the world, but then it has also to see that its own democracy is beset by its own anxieties. मतलब अमेरिकन डेमोक्रेसी में भी प्रॉब्लम हो रही है और उन्होंने इंडिया को पॉइंट आउट करके कहा कि व्हाट अबाउट द डेमोक्रेसी इन द कंट्री एंड and the rest here about the communities. And yet, having said that, the response to Obama's remarks by the Delhi establishment has been uncalled for. Now, see, the author is coming up with both the points. He is giving, like he says, that Mr. Obama was not right in mentioning all this, what he mentioned here about the India's treatment of its Muslim minority, right? It sounded off key. So, still, Delhi's establishment also, whatever response Delhi gave to Obama's remarks, even that was uncalled for. That means वो भी सही नहीं था. So what Mr. Obama did was also not correct, and what response Delhi gave was also not correct, according to the author. Right? One of the stated achievements of the Modi government has been on the foreign policy front. It claims, with more than some justification, to have upended the traditional diplomatic paradigms and reimagined India's place in the world as a more confident and assertive player, but surely confident does not equal prickly. इसका मतलब है कि मिस्टर मोदी ने या मोदी की गवर्नमेंट ने मिस्टर मोदी की गवर्नमेंट ने जो अपनी इमेज बनाई है इंडिया की according to the foreign policy, it says that the traditional diplomatic paradigms या rules जो भी उन्होंने follow किया है वो काफी high level के हैं, right? And the kind of response that Delhi gave to Mr. Barack Obama's pointers, you can say, or whatever he said in that interview, his remarks in that interview, right? So the response of Delhi was also not up to the mark. It was not uncalled for, right? It was uncalled for. तो it was uncalled for का मतलब हो गया कि वो उस हिसाब से नहीं थे, वो सही नहीं थे according to the conditions, right? Why was Barack Obama's remarks not or they were off key, they were not proper or not appropriate, you can say, right? Why? Because American democracy has its own anxieties. He gave a reason. Second, Delhi's response was uncalled for. That means it was not befitting. Why? Because India's image that Mr. Modi and his government has created is one of, say, the diplomatic paradigms are at a certain level. They have reimagined India's place in the world as a more confident and assertive player. So, how India is viewed by the whole world is that India is a confident nation and an assertive player. ठीक है, बहुत श्योरिटी के साथ वो कोई भी काम करते हैं. But then the way the response was given, right, from Delhi's side, according to the author, it was uncalled for. कॉन्फिडेंस होना चाहिए लेकिन प्रिकली नहीं होना चाहिए. तो कॉन्फिडेंस डज नॉट इक्वेट equal prickly. Prickly is something that is pointing out, hurting. ठीक है, इट वॉज प्रिकिंग. जो थॉर्न्स होते हैं ना वो चुभते हैं. तो ये होना चाहिए कि कॉन्फिडेंस होना चाहिए लेकिन चुभना नहीं चाहिए टू अदर्स. So now if I take this first paragraph, here we are talking about Obama's remarks over India's treatment, right? And this idea of exporting democracy is not correct. Why? Because America's democracy is itself beset by its own anxieties. And then it says that Delhi's response also wasn't uncalled for. Yeah, appropriate nahi tha. So when I join the dots, fine. Reason, this part of the paragraph becomes a reason of why the author considers this response of the Delhi establishment as uncalled for. So this sentence becomes the point, this sentence becomes the reason, right? And this is author's opinion about what Mr. Barack Obama said. And the first sentence, lectures on democracy more often than not invite questions about the gratuitousness and locus standi over the lecturer. Locus standi हुआ इसका मतलब जिसे अपना point of view रखने का right है. In that way, gratuitousness is something that you get for free. You know what is gratuity. So invite questions. जगह पर मतलब there's no bond there, there's no linking there. You have not earned anything. Still, you are providing something to others. ठीक है, और उसके ऊपर भी फिर क्वेश्चंस आएंगे कि ये सब हमें ऐसा क्यों मिला. Now, from Assam Chief Minister Hemanta Biswa Sarma, putting it crudely in a tweet against Hussein Obama, to Baidyanath Panda, BJP Vice President, endorsing his party colleagues' attack on Barry, to no less than the Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, pointing to the bombing of Muslim-dominated nations during the Obama presidency. The BJP and its government appeared too quick on the draw. That means, what did Mr. Finance Minister say? Right? What did the Assam Chief Minister say? And crudely means very roughly, very rawly. Crude यानी raw होता है, हमने अभी कुछ दिन पहले किया था, right? So it is like very roughly, nothing that is gleaned, you can say, not polished, crude. We had done this word, I suppose. Okay. So these two people have put it very clearly that, see, one said about this party colleagues attack, right? Secondly, he said about, she said about the bombing of the nations, Muslim dominated nations. They pointed out to something, but then this was a very quick reply or retort by the Delhi administration. So, by Delhi, that is not the administration, sorry, right? So, the BJP and its government, सिर्फ दिल्ली का मतलब हो गया सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट. सो द बीजेपी एंड इट्स गवर्नमेंट अपीयर टू क्विक ऑन द ड्रॉ. बहुत जल्दी उन्होंने रिस्पॉन्स कर लिया, बहुत जल्दी उन्होंने उनसी बात का जवाब दिया. Incidentally, President Joe Biden, who accorded PM Modi a grand welcome in Washington last week, was part of the same Obama administration that Sitaraman referred so sharply to. Right? Sharply is like in a very acidic or acerbic manner. So, more seriously, the wolf warrior diplomacy on display is ill fitting. The wolf warrior diplomacy, आप note down कर लीजिए, please. Right, note down this word in your notebook and then read about it a little. It is like that, okay, fine, only what we are saying has to happen. That is. Now, this wolf warrior diplomacy on display is ill fitting. The larger project this new diplomatic stance is part of has merits. So the larger project has merits. The reclaiming of control over the India story, the signaling that it would now unfold on India's own terms, could be said to have been overdue. Right. So reclaiming of control over the India story. फिर से story या India story पर फिर से control हो जाना. So now if we read this part of the paragraph, it was the response of the ministers. So, chief minister as well as the union finance minister, how did they respond? One said, see, what about your bombings? Why do you tell us that, say, what our treatment towards the Muslim minorities is? Right? So, what about you? This was a bombing of the Muslim dominated nations during the Obama presidency. तो एक ये बात हो गई. Second, Mr. Hemanta Viswa Sarma, he talked about very cruelly or roughly to Hussein Obama. He mentioned, see, you can see the inverted commas, right? Right? And then he was like party colleagues attack on Barry to no less than the union finance minister. दोनों दो examples हैं response के. और according to the author दोनों सही नहीं है. ठीक है? So what they doing? Yeah. He was part. They are forgetting something. So that means this part of the paragraph is saying that they are too quick on the draw. That means they are coming to a very quick conclusion. कंक्लूजन करके और फटाफट ड्रॉ मतलब आप लड़ाई करने के लिए बिल्कुल तैयार हो जा रहे हो. ठीक है, सो यू आर क्विक ऑन इट. But assertive diplomacy must also be mature, and tamping down the combative impulse can bring more benefits. Now, see, assertive diplomacy, if you go back, you have this wolf warrior diplomacy, right? तो ना वुल्फ वॉरियर कैसे होगा? एक तो वॉरियर भी है, दूसरा वुल्फ भी है, मतलब वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग इन दैट मैनर. Then here we have this word assertive. So that wolf warrior democracy will be similar to the assertive diplomacy. इसका मतलब जो भी हमारे मतलब what we wish, we stand by it and that is to be followed. So this diplomacy must also be mature, in tamping down the combative impulse can bring more benefits. So if it actually reduces or softens the combative इम्पल्स, कम्बेट का मतलब होता है क्वारल करने का. तो ये जो इम्पल्स है क्वारल करने की, इस इम्पल्स को कम कर देना है. इट कैन ब्रिंग मोर बेनिफिट्स. अ केस इन पॉइंट इज पीएम मोदी सक्सेसफुल विजिट टू इजिप्ट, right? So this impulsive what they are doing, no, that should be cut down, that should be brought to an end, so to say. And then the author is giving a case in point. ठीक है, कि क्या होना चाहिए, कैसे होना चाहिए. तो वो है अब एक इंसिडेंट. पीएम मोदी's successful visit to Egypt after the spectacular US trip. It would not have been possible had Delhi reacted in short-term ways to Egypt's decision to stay away from the G20 tourism meet in Srinagar in May. Right? So it would not have been possible had in Delhi reacted in short term ways. अगर उसने ऐसे react किया होता, जैसे अभी उसने react किया, that was uncalled for, right? अगर उस टाइम पे react करते वो इजिप्ट के decision पे, that Egypt wanted to stay away from the G20 tourism meet, right? So it was different. That is what the author wants to say. The fact also is that Obama's concern about the need for India's democracy to be more mindful of the protections it affords its largest minority for the sake of both the minority and the majority is not new. Obama's concern is not new. तो मतलब इसने पहली बार नहीं कहा है इंडिया को, ठीक है, कि ऐसा करो. Others, many others at home and abroad have voiced similar concerns. So, as India readies to play host at the G20 summit in the year of its presidency, it will need to take those questions on board. ठीक है, तो उसको तैयार होना चाहिए. Rounding on the questioner makes it look less self-assured and not more. Now comes the author's main point, okay, what will be understood from this quick response that Delhi has given, the Delhi government has given, right? That means the center. इतना क्विक रिस्पॉन्स आ गया तो उसमें कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं दिख रहा है. उसमें क्या दिख रहा है, राइट? इट मेक्स इट लुक लेस सेल्फ अश्योर्ड एंड नॉट मोर. सो शार्प रिटॉर्ट्स एंड पॉइंटेड रिबफ्स. रिबफ मतलब एकदम से जवाब दे देना कि ऐसा ठीक है, फाइन, मतलब स्टार्ट डूइंग इट, और यू गेट अ रेड सिग्नल इन दैट मैनर. So sharp retorts and pointed rebuffs, the kind that have become the trademark of Sitaraman's colleague S. Jai Shankar, are effective and smart. But sometimes just listening without rushing to grandstand can be smarter. ये हो गया ऑथर की मेन पॉइंट. Getting this point, so let's see how we can join the dots. So this assertive policy must be mature, and then Obama's concern is about this fact, and then whatever they did was not new, and then he gives the short retorts and political rebuffs. And one more thing, that behaving in such a manner, it doesn't show or reflect confidence or self assurance, rather कम हो जाता है, वो उसकी इमेज कम हो जाती है इंडिया की. तभी उसने कहा कि दे शुड बी लिसनिंग without rushing to the grandstand, and when you listen you could be working in a smarter way. So the main idea is BJP's attack on him makes Delhi look insecure. उसने ये कहा था second last paragraph में. And smart diplomacy also means listening, in the last line, right? So this was in the second paragraph and this was in the last line. We have discussed most of the words, but we'll quickly go through them. So crudely is roughly or rudely nahi, raw. Prickly is something that is like hurting. Ill-fitting is like misfit. Paradigms would be unreasonable rules, myths. Combative is to fight. कॉम्बैट वर्ड कभी किया होगा तुमने जब प्ले स्टेशन पे खेला करते थे नहीं दे यूज्ड टू बी गेम्स लाइक कॉम्बैट uncalled for means the outcome was not an appropriate one, so uncalled for is inappropriate, right? Locus standi is your position or whether you have a right to do this or no. Presumption is assumption. Gratuitousness. ठीक है, तो ग्रेचुटी क्या होता है? ग्रेट इज टू प्लीज, ये एक रूट वर्ड है. ठीक है, अब आप इसको प्लीज करोगे मतलब लोगों को खुश करोगे कैसे, राइट? ग्रेटिट्यूड और ग्रेचुटी, देखिए ग्रेटिट्यूड वाला नहीं, ये ग्रेचुटी. सॉरी, दैट वाज अनदर वर्ड. ग्रेचुटी, TUITY. ठीक है, तो ग्रेचुटी फंड होता है ये. समथिंग फंड तो अलग हो जाता है, but that is given to the people who are leaving the job, no, then they can get something extra, something in goodwill that is given to the people who gratuity हो जाते, means it is not earned. अगर earned नहीं है तो फिर उसी पे बात हो रही है मतलब. So tamping down is like softening. Tone sounded off key, off key is inappropriate. Right, too quick on the draw means too quick a response. And a wolf warrior democracy is something that is quite assertive. Sharp retorts and pointing rebuffs. Rebuff यानी एकदम पलट के जवाब दे देना. Retorts का भी मतलब वही होता है, right? To back answer. Right. Something that you disapprove of and then the way you would answer. ये mainly remarks और उसके साथ आते हैं ना, जैसे offensive remarks होते हैं. तो retorts और rebuffs का भी वही मतलब है कि कुछ offensive होता है and then you just say it out very bluntly to the person, concerned person. Right. So we have done only one foreign word. So एंड वन रूट वर्ड हमने किया है ग्रांट, लेकिन एक और कर सकते थे तुम, लोग का लोकेशन के साथ रिलेट कर दो। तो लोग, लोकल, लोकेट, लोकेशन, राइट? यू ऑलरेडी नो दिस वर्ड लोकल एंड लोकेट, तो हम कर सकते हैं, इसको समझ सकते हैं कि एलओसी लोग क्या होता है, पोजीशन होता है। ठीक है, चलो अब तुम्हारे पास एक दो और थे, साउंडेड ऑफ की, टू किक ऑन द करियर, पुल फायर, वॉरियर डिप्लोमेसी एंड लोकस टेंडाई। These are the four things, right? तो four idioms suppose आपने कर लिए, चार से पांच में मिल गए। बाकी के सब भी you need to write down the words, maybe any other time of the day, but before sleeping, write down these words. Look up the words in the dictionary and write down the simplest meaning. That's it. So thank you, and see you tomorrow. Have a very logical day ahead.